Mercedes has just dropped a bombshell on Red Bull, as Toto Wolff has increased his public pursuit of Max Verstappen by announcing that the world champion is his top choice to partner George Russell next season, should Verstappen become available. And this time Toto looks set on doing everything he can to get the driver he couldn't get in 2014. Verstappen is under contract with Red Bull until the end of 2028, but his future has become an unexpected conversation point at the start of this season, thanks to his current team's chaotic off-track drama. A spat between Verstappen's father Jos and Red Bull team principal Christian Horner in Bahrain preceded Max Verstappen's suggestion in Saudi Arabia that if Helmut Marko is removed from the team, it will have an influence on his career as well. Verstappen also had a Marko clause put into his contract, which allows him to leave early if the 80-year-old departs. All of this has fueled speculation that Verstappen might replace Hamilton at Mercedes in 2025, ahead of substantial power unit rule revisions, despite claims that the young Red Bull engine project is trailing Mercedes and Ferrari. Horner also hinted at calling Verstappen's bluff in Jeddah, saying that no person is greater than the team and that no one, including star driver Verstappen, would be forced to stay if they chose to quit. While everything has played out, Wolff, a longtime Verstappen fan, has made every effort to welcome the driver with whom his team fought so furiously in 2021. Mercedes is losing Lewis Hamilton to Ferrari at the end of 2024, therefore a spot is available beside Russell. Andrea Kimi Antonelli is a left-field contender for the position. Fernando Alonso is another contender. And Wolff has also mentioned Ferrari driver Carlos Sainz, who Hamilton will replace, as a possible candidate. But Wolff has Verstappen at the top of his list. Who would you choose? Wolff has made multiple public statements about being interested in Verstappen if he decides to leave Red Bull after all, but none have been as brazen as his comments during a Fox Sports Australia interview at last weekend's Australian Grand Prix. "We have a slot free, the only one in the top teams unless Max decides he goes, and the slot is not going to be free with us anymore," Wolff went on to say. Though that assumes Verstappen will choose Mercedes if he leaves Red Bull, it is entirely consistent with how Wolff has consistently framed Mercedes' interest in Verstappen should he become available. The team is a big admirer of his ability, would seriously consider him, and would expect him to be gettable. When asked if he is Mercedes' #1 pick, Wolff said, "Yes, you see what his performance levels are, but I wouldn't want to discount the other ones too. We've got to look at ourselves and say, what is it that we can do with this car? And then it becomes much easier for whoever drives the second car, much easier for George, because he has the potential of being a world champion. And it's much more the team's problem to solve than really looking for a silver bullet with an amazing driver." That underscores the fact that Mercedes may desire Verstappen all it wants, but it still needs to make a stronger argument than just saying, "This team is more together than your current team." Aside from the internal bickering among Red Bull's leadership factions, there is a medium-term competitive case for Verstappen to quit. Red Bull will lose its current engine partner Honda at the end of 2025 and will construct its own engine for 2026, marking the first time the company has undertaken such a project. That is a massive task, especially when the engine formula shifts closer to a 50-50 combination of power from the internal combustion engine and the MGU-K. Mercedes gained to prominence at the start of the hybrid period in 2014, and while it has underperformed in the car technical age that began in 2022, a significant rules reset in 2026 might provide the opportunity for it to dethrone Red Bull once again. Any short-term transfer to Mercedes would have to be planned with the next several years in mind, since Wolff has recognised that a substantial step is required to persuade Verstappen just on performance grounds. "He's extraordinary, but we would give him a car that's a handful, difficult to set up and drive," Wolff added. "And I'd rather make that step and be out there and say, this is a car you could drive because it's also going fast." Wolff has hinted that a decision would be taken in the summer. Aside from Verstappen, Antonelli is already on Mercedes' roster, Alonso has yet to decide what to do, and Sainz is still a free agent, so Mercedes appears to have the luxury of waiting to see what Verstappen does and whether that possibility materialises. Signing Verstappen would come a decade or so after a failed effort to sign him as a young car racing rookie in 2014, when Red Bull beat Mercedes to his signing because they had a Toro Rosso F1 seat to offer him for 2015, when Verstappen was just 17. "I'd seen him in Formula 3, he was very good," said Wolff. "I have a good relationship with his father, so we sat down in my Vienna home and said, what can we do? I wasn't able to give him a Formula 1 seat. I said, let's do F2 together, fully funded, and I guarantee you a seat next year in the car. They said, I have an offer from Red Bull for Toro Rosso basically from now on. That was it. I knew that we wouldn't be able to compete with that. Half into the next season, he replaced Daniel Kvyat at Red Bull and took the seat. But Wolff seems keen on making it happen one day, and according to his words, rather sooner than later. It's a kind of relationship that needs to happen at a certain stage, said Wolff, but we don't know when. The big question is if Mercedes and Toto Wolff can make an offer good enough for Verstappen to change teams. And as Wolff said, the only possible way to get Verstappen in is to make a car that would be appealing to every driver on the grid. And well, this could be a big ask, but at least they are getting to the center of the problem. Mercedes has explained the odd swings in the performance of its 2024 Formula 1 car, admitting that insufficient simulation models might be to blame. Despite expectations of reclaiming some ground over the winter, after 3 rounds this season, it has failed to finish on the podium and has earned 30 points less than at the same time in 2023. Its technical director, James Allison, referred to this in the team's post-race debrief issued on Wednesday. We are starting to see a pattern emerge that most weekends we have a period in the weekend where we are feeling good about the car, confident about the car, but then in the paying sessions, in qualifying and the race, that slips through our fingers, he said. If we were trying to draw that pattern together, then probably the strongest correlation that we can make at the moment is that our competitiveness drops when the track is warm, when the day is at its warmest, and therefore the tyre temperatures rise with those of the track. The times when we have been at our best have been all in the sessions which are the coolest, and so that gives us some clues about what we need to do as we move forward from here. But from FP3 to qualifying in Melbourne, there was not a setup change. Allison's explanation relied on clues offered by team principal Toto Wolff in Australia regarding what was causing Mercedes' current confusion. He referred to Mercedes' problems as a physics problem. Wolff's remark hinted that Mercedes was understanding that its troubles may be due to a discrepancy between their wind tunnel statistics and realities. We took many potential root causes out of the equation, Wolff replied. We weren't sure about our suspension, we weren't sure about the stiffness of our gearbox carrier, we had a vibrating steering rack, and all of those things have disappeared. But fundamentally, whatever we see in the tunnel doesn't correlate with what's happening on the track. And it is not a single person that says, I would interpret that data this way, and because of dogmatism, we're not making any progress. I don't see dogmatism, and I should see an open environment where people share, where people dig themselves by the nose and say, maybe in my area, we are making mistakes. It's so tough. In my career, in everything I've done before, finance and investments, you know which screws to turn. And you know sometimes it takes time because back in my Williams days, I knew what was missing. But here, I don't think we are missing something. It is just a complication of what's happening with the car that we can't see. And it's like an on-off switch. And then you see all the progress that McLaren and Ferrari have made. And this is the difference between last year and this year. And it's a difficult situation that, according to Allison and Wolff's most recent statements, Mercedes does not currently possess the skills to overcome. So how could they even begin and try to convince Verstappen if they don't even know how to fix their problems? Who do you think Mercedes will end up signing for 2025? Leave it in the comments down below.